Hello, everyone. You're watching Café New Canadians, and we welcome you all. Café New Canadians is a weekly virtual chat series where we discuss all the topics that matter the most to newcomers, international students, and people who may be thinking of making Canada their new home. Café New Canadians, as a lot of you may already know, or if you're joining us for the first time, well, welcome again, is brought to you by New Canadians. Now, New Canadians is a TV and web series, and therein, like I mentioned before, we focus primarily on the topics that matter the most to international students, to immigrants, to newcomers, or to people who are thinking that they want to make Canada their new home. And topics like education, employment, immigration, we provide you with the sources and the best resources. And you can watch us on Omni Television if you're joining us from within Canada. If you choose to go online, well, our website is New Canadians TV, and of course, our YouTube channel as well. I am your host, Shelly Seni, for this evening, and I will be moderating this session. What are we going to talk in this session? Well, this session is going to be a vibrant discussion, as you can see, for this session where we'll be talking about how one can increase their employability through the use of advanced language skills. And we are very fortunate because we've got a phenomenal panel here. We are joined by two of the industry experts who have exemplary experience in the field, and two of the former graduates of language training courses. We will be joined by Katerina, Belazelkoska, Gloria, Pierre, Camelia, Frumosu, and Naya, Alnasser. I welcome you all, and with them, with this panel, we will be discussing our topic: increase your employability with advanced language skills. And with this panel, I'm sure we are going to get very valuable tips. Now, for all of you who have joined us, either through YouTube, where we are live streaming right now, or through Zoom, if you have questions on your mind and you want them to be answered, do not hesitate. Through Zoom, if you have joined us, you can certainly ask your questions by typing your questions in the Q&A box. And if you have joined us through the YouTube platform, well, you can leave your comments or your questions in the comment section. And this is one topic where we can delve deeper and try and understand how one can communicate in a better manner, more confidently, more clearly, and make oneself understood. Now, without wasting any more time, I will begin the session with a round of introductions. And like I said, we have a wonderful panel tonight, and I would like all of you to introduce yourself. A warm welcome to all of you once again, and introduce yourself one by one so our audience know you better and they know what questions they have to ask you. Katerina, I'll begin with you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I must say, I'm a fan of everything that you guys do. Now, to a brief introduction for myself, I'm a relatively new immigrant in Canada. I arrived in Canada in 2007. And I was lucky because of my background to get a job at the Chinese School of Continuing Education, Ryerson University, under the portfolio of gateway programs for internationally educated professionals. And that's where I am. After managing a few other bridge training programs since 2013, I have the privilege to manage one of the best, the Workplace Communication in Canada program. I guess we will have a lot of time to discuss details about that. I'll just mention that I'm also a subject matter expert, and I am teaching courses in the Immigration and Settlement Studies area at the Chinese School of Continuing Education. So this is really my passion. This is what I call my calling, to help immigrants like myself make it succeed in their new country, Canada. Thank you.
Katerina, I'm sure we're going to get a deeper perspective and understanding as to how an immigrant can, make oneself comfortable and accepted in the society and succeed in his or her career. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Gloria, I'll move on to you now.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I am the president of Clearly Speaking, a company I started in 2000. So I'm proud to say this year is 21 years since I've been doing this. And along the way, I've gotten a lot of experience and skills in communication. So I specialize in accent reduction for people who speak English as a second language. And I also specialize in networking for newcomers. Over the years, I've written 6 books on related topics, which would include pronunciation, grammar, listening, all the soft skills. And I also have new products online to help people who speak English as a second language, and actually to help anyone who would like to better their communication skills to match their careers, to match the businesses that they want, and so forth. And like Katerina, it's my passion, it's my calling, and I am very much in love with what I do. Every day is a joy when I'm doing this. So it's a pleasure again to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you all here. Camelia, I would want to know more about you now. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me. I am honored to be invited here. I've been a permanent resident for a year, so I'm quite fresh. In the past, I was an ESL teacher back in Romania, and I was lucky enough to graduate from Ryerson school for continuing education. And I believe that thanks to that experience, I am now an administration assistant for testing for English Testing Canada. So I'm sorry, I'm a bit excited and emotional. So yeah, I am happy to share my experience with you all.
We're happy to have you here. You will give a completely different and a fresh perspective to this discussion. And Naya, what about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am happy also to be part of this discussion for today. I came to Canada in 2017 on November. And at that time, I start my job almost immediately at CCLC. There were many refugees, Yazidi, coming from Iraq. And they were looking for the Kurdish language. So I do the interpretation, or I get my job as a language assistant with those refugees. Back home, I have a master degree in business management. And since I came to Canada, I'm working on my language skills and communication, and also doing now studying and looking for new challenge and opportunities also.
It's wonderful. And, talking to all of you, I can totally understand how important, and we all know how important communication is. It pretty much decides where a person stands in his or her life, whether in terms of personal relations or whether in terms of workspace. But tonight, since we are focusing specifically on the language skills one can use to advance in his or her career, when we speak, we want to be heard, we want to be understood. But for a lot of newcomers who are coming here and entering the Canadian market space, that might not be the reality. So, Katerina, if I can come to you first and try and understand as to what would be the language skill set, according to you, that newcomers must acquire or possess or master to feel accepted at the workplace or to succeed further in their career?
Mm-hmm. I will start with something that we regularly do at Ryerson University and the Chain School specifically, which is inviting employers to do presentations or do really let us know, mainly in a panel format, to let us know what do they expect from internationally educated professionals and immigrants, international students. What do they expect, and how should we prepare them and help them succeed in find a job in their field? And I wanted to start with this and kind of set the ground for our discussion. we have had a panel just recently that constituted of people from the banking, the health sector. We had some management, business related professionals. And what we heard from all of them, that they were really looking for specifically for these three skills. They were looking for critical thinking skills. They were looking for good writing skills. And most importantly, they were looking for interpersonal communication skills. A lot of them recognize that we come, I'm an engineer. In my previous life, I was an electronics and telecommunication engineer, but then I went into education, which was my passion, was a principal. My master's and PhD are in education, and that's how I found my way in higher education. But what they really said was, people come with a lot of skills and education, experience too, but some of those skills are transferable. But what really matters to them is that they will definitely introduce their new employees who are not from Canada, not educated, do not really know the culture. They really want them to have that personality and have those interpersonal and communication skills. And then they will learn the trade, because as we know, each organization has its own rules, the ways they do business. And that is why it is so important that we emphasize these skills with the newcomers that we serve in our bridge training programs, and specifically in the Workplace Communication in Canada program that I'm managing. It is a set of, as we know, that workplace culture is a very interesting dimension. And then within it, a lot of other elements are playing the role. So it really, we come from different cultures, as I mentioned, and we just have to understand that within the culture, there are some client-driven or expert-driven. It may be hierarchical, it may be equality-based, it may be individualistic, it may be collectivistic culture. So coming from very, very diverse settings and being raised in different ways, that's what we really have to focus, to see what are our skills that are easily transferable, and what is something that we have to really pay attention to. And of course, there are a lot of services and there's a lot of programs that are available to newcomers and now even to pre-arrivals to master those skills. And again, we will be talking a little bit more in depth into the interpersonal, intercultural communication skills, but that's what I really wanted to start the session with.
Definitely. 2 points from your answer that caught my attention. First, that you actually invited people from the industry, and that gave you an idea as to how the management is also making an effort to reach out to newcomers, as in people who will be joining them. So that actually gives a level play field to everyone. Secondly, you highlighted the cultural aspect. That actually brings me to my next question, even before I jump onto the challenges that one might be facing, but cultural aspect, because all of you all mentioned how came to Canada, and specifically, if I can, move on to Gloria, because you work in you have been working for so long with the people, and telling them and teaching them how to have that clarity of speech and diction. But culture definitely has a deep impact on how one communicates, right? And one person might be very good with the English, maybe he or she is proficient, but is unable to deliver the message because the message is being lost in the context. How do you address that?
Well, as Katerina mentioned about individualistic and collectivistic societies, that has a huge impact on how newcomers assimilate in society or in the workplace. Because if, for example, they come from a collectivistic society or culture where they are not allowed to, or they don't voice their opinions, they don't speak up, they don't share their opinions, or they're not asked, Moving to Canada, where it is very individualistic and everybody has to promote themselves, if they don't realize the difference between where they came from and what's in the culture in Canada, then they could be left back because they are not self-promoting as such. And it has a big impact. Another impact that culture has on communication is the rate of speech, the tone, the volume of speech, because in some cultures, it's okay to speak loudly. And in some cultures, you have to be very quiet or muted. It would almost seem to us in North America that it's passive. And so what happens is, if people, or if we don't recognize that culture has an impact on our communication, we could be misjudging people. And especially in the workplace, they could be misjudged and may not be given opportunities because of that misjudgment. Another impact that culture has on communication is that it may prevent people from interacting, joining discussions, talking in meetings, having conversations with people who they perceive speak English better than them, because they are so self-conscious about maybe their accent, their pronunciation. And so one of the things that I do when I am in workshops or with coaching clients is that I explain the idea of culture, where they came from, and how it's different from what is in Canada or what is in North America. And because I start with that, once they understand why they may be misjudged or misunderstood, or why they are so self-conscious about their communication, it starts to make them feel a little bit more relaxed and accepting of what I am going to be telling them. So that's where I start. And it has to start with the thought or the mindset that they come with. And over the last 21 years, that has been helping my clients a lot, because they can self-correct. Once they understand what the problems, or what is the origin of the problems that they're facing, especially in communication, they are more receptive to trying things. And in that case, I can push them a little bit further.
Right. And no, I understand the way you, Gloria, and Katerina, both of you, like you mentioned, that you're passionate about it. I'm sure you must have clients who have sailed through the process very swiftly and smoothly. Camelia, if I can come to you, since we're talking about the cultural impact on language skills, and you told us fairly new here, what were some of the initial challenges that you faced?
I personally am very shy and introverted, even though I was a teacher for 15 years. So it's a bit contradictory. Yet, knowing the language, knowing about the language is not the same as communicating and belonging to a new culture. I come from a hierarchical society. So like Katerina said and Gloria said, we are quiet, we are shy in expressing our opinions. We are careful not to bother people. And what I learned was the fact that I had to change that about myself. So I did my research and I read about WCC and this program, and I realized that I had to overcome these obstacles that I was facing, because I had to show people my potential. And it's hard to write about it. You have to communicate it. And I knew I needed exercise in this respect. So that's what I did. I practiced, I learned, I communicated. I joined all the sessions and all the breakout sessions, all the group discussions, all the challenges that they presented us, the coaches from Ryerson presented us with. And bit by bit, I managed to become very clear about my message and to become, why not, employable. And people wanted to hear about me, wanted to hear about my experience. And I was able to convey that to them, thanks to all this practice that I had.
You know what? I mean, that is a story of resilience, right? And what I liked the most when you said that people wanted to listen what I had to say and they were able to understand my message, how beautiful and encouraging it is. Naya, what were some of your initial barriers that you faced, or maybe challenges that you thought, well, this is not happening? Was there ever a moment?
Yeah, just okay. When I came, like there is also, as they said, different in culture and communication between our country and here. First, like the language skills, it make it more difficult for the communication. Like sometimes when you are sitting and with your coworker, maybe you can't understand some jokes or you can't understand everything in detail, so you can't respond to them directly as when you are talking your own language. So the language barrier, and also there is like a difference in culture between our and them. I was registered, I enrolled in some courses and also workshop for the communication and for the job in Canada. And also I was listening to my co-worker advice all that time on the office and what to do, what is acceptable here, how people, they like the way they are dealing with each other and the communication way, something like that, tips from my friends and from the workshops and from the courses. It helped me a lot. And also like whenever with time you need more and more. So I'm still also working on those skills.
Well, that's wonderful. You observed and learned a lot. Well, here I would like to tell all of our viewers and audience who joined us, whether through Zoom or through YouTube, if you have any questions for our panel members tonight, you can definitely ask us. The very simple way is, if you are joining us through the Zoom webinar, you can type in your questions in the Q&A box. And if you have joined us through YouTube, where we are live streaming the session right now, you can leave your questions in the comment section below, and we will definitely try to answer all of your questions. And we are actually at a very interesting point here in this conversation, because we are talking about the cultural impact, and you've all shared such interesting anecdotes and stories. And what I really, and these are very inspirational, because Naya told me that she was observing and learning and improving, and Camelia said that she was being understood. But also the point to be highlighted here is, when we come to a new country, we are, well, exposed to a new culture. We are exposed to a new language that has a different style, a different accent, and has its own idioms and slangs. If I can first come to the accent, and Gloria, I can come to you on that first. What do you suggest to newcomers? Should they drop their home accent and adopt the Canadian accent, or would you rather have them speak naturally and focus more on appropriate diction?
Please do not drop your accent. It is part of who you are. It's part of your culture. What I suggest is get some help so you can, when you speak, you can be easily heard and understood. Just imagine Toronto without accents. Imagine if we all sound alike. That's not who we are. And we all bring to Canada parts of ourselves, parts of our cultures, parts of our family. It's who we are, and it makes us unique. So please do not try to drop your accent. I get asked that question all the time. Clients come to me and say, I want to speak like a Canadian. And I would say, no, you do not want to speak like a Canadian, because the myth is that, and I hear this from newcomers all the time, is that they believe that if you speak English as a first language, you speak it well all the time, or you know how to pronounce all the words all the time, correctly all the time. That is not the case. We who speak English as the first language or as the only language, we are as good as the people we learn it from. So just like everything, even in their native language, they're as good as the people they learn it from. So if they want to improve their diction, they want to be easily heard and understood, there are a couple of things that they should be doing right away. Is number one, most times they speak very fast because they're so conscious of their pronunciation And in speaking fast, it's very hard for the listener to understand them, which means they will not be understood, which means they could be ignored or just not be paid attention to. So reduce the rate of speech, speak slower so that you can get all the syllables in. And there are a couple of challenges that newcomers or who speak English as a second language have that I can talk to immediately. Number one is grammar, and not all parts of speech, specifically how past tense is pronounced. So instead of treated, they would say something different, because past tense is so different. Everything about English language is different. There's always challenges and exceptions to the rule. So past tense and prepositions that they have to pay attention to. So for example, someone may say, there's someone on my door instead of someone at my door, which changes the meaning, right? Someone at my door. And if you say someone at my door, you're thinking someone is hanging onto the door, but that's not the case. They are at the door, they are in front of the door or behind the door or near the door. The other one is the other challenges that they have are with certain consonants like V and F or R and L, S, H, CH, and nearly all the vowels. So those are things that they have to pay attention to immediately.
All right. Well, Katerina, I would like to come to you because when I asked this question, I saw you nodding. What do you have to say to that?
Well, in the Workplace Communication in Canada program, the very first course that we start with is the effective speaking and listening skills. And I cannot agree more with Gloria that listening and the speaking skills, and especially the chance to really learn how to do a greeting on your cell phone, what's the right way. And again, how you, as Gloria mentioned, should not be ashamed for having an accent. Coming to United States first at 45 and to Canada at 51, I mean, I will never lose my accent. What really matters and what our famous instructors are achieving to do, and Camelia can speak into that more as a participant in the program, is that what they do is really improve their fluency, improve their clarity, the overall oral communication skills, and get that self-confidence. What we hear from our participants, our graduates, is that they got the self-confidence, and we see with Raptors, when they are confident, they score. The same thing with us. When we're confident, we really score. And we feel very comfortable in our own skin, and then things just happen. So that is why, as I mentioned, listening and speaking skills. And in speaking skills, of course, listening is crucial because you make a lot of friends by listening well, asking questions, and making connections. But with speaking, it really matters that you use the right tone, the right volume, and one of the most important things for a lot of cultures, including mine, I come from Macedonia, it is waiting for other people to finish before you start speaking, which is a very, very important thing, not to interrupt the speaker. But it's a common thing in my culture. I was the only woman in the board in the Macedonian community. We had a board for integration. And I attended the first meeting, and I was like, oh my God, they were all talking, they were all men, my friends, they were all talking at the same time. And I found myself being like a traffic policeman, like, okay, he didn't finish, let him finish. And all the time. And I was thinking, oh, I became a Canadian. I should better leave comedian and let them have fun. Because that's probably one very pretty common reason. And at meetings, in teamwork, it's a no-no. It's a no-no. So that's why I wanted to mention that we really do pay a lot of attention. And that's the kind of the ice-breaking course, the effective speaking and listening skills. And from there, we started building the tower, and I guess Camelia can say more about that.
Yeah, sure. Camelia, what do you have to add?
Indeed, we had amazing coaches who highlighted the importance of enunciation, like Gloria said, pitch, volume, clarity over the speed. And we are also encouraged to help each other in our breakout sessions, and indeed not to lose our originality. Our accent is something that identifies us, and it's our cultural identity, so we shouldn't lose it. We had a lot of lessons. Even I was an English teacher, and still I felt like a student again when I had to play with vowels and to round my sounds and all that. And I had so much fun doing that, and also helping others. We are also encouraged to use all sorts of media in order to hone our skills, our communication skills. We recorded ourselves. We used a lot of online tools. Our coach was Brenda. She sent us all over the website, the internet. So podcasts, Vocaroo, all sorts of tools that leaving messages. They made us leave messages, and that was part of our assessment. Leave phone messages. Recording ourselves about it's like trying to record our elevator speech, right, for potential employers. So that was very, very useful, and that culminated with very, very open feedback and assessment, both from our coaches and our peers, which helped us a lot because we had a lot of points of view from various parts of the world.
That's interesting, and definitely, we definitely need that help support system to make us understand where we stand and where we can go from here. And on that note, I would like to take a question from the audience member. Our audience member by the name Pablo Vergara has asked us, what are the most critical lessons related to communication that you have learned within Canadian workplace? If I'm understanding this question correctly, I think this person wants me to address this question either to you, Naya, or to Camelia, because they're asking, you have learned within the Canadian workplace. So if I can go to you first, Naya.
Just the question, like, what are
Sure. The question, he wants to ask, what are the most critical lessons related to communication that you learned within the Canadian workplace?
Yeah, the best lesson or the most important about communication, to know, to understand the culture clearly, or as much as you understand the culture and the language, it will be much easier for you to communicate with them, to communicate in the same way, and to behave as in a nice way, the same as the Canadian culture. Like, for example, also as she mentioned before, in our culture, it's normal when someone is talking to stop him and ask the question directly. But here in Canada, this is like unlikely. So people, they don't like it, and they don't do like that. So the most important to understand the language and the culture clearly and so closely.
Thank you so much. And now, if I come to Katerina and Gloria. Gloria, if you can go first, and to this question, what would be that one important tip that you would want to give to newcomers, that this is one critical lesson that you must keep in mind, or one critical tip that you must keep in mind when you are entering Canadian workplace?
Most important thing, and Katerina mentioned this, is listening. And listening and observing. See what the lay of the land is. See how things are done. Listen to people. Ask questions. So listening, observing, and asking questions. Because it is it could be a brand new environment where you have to learn everything, not only about the culture of the country and how it has impacted the culture of the workplace or the particular workplace. So ask questions, observe, listen. And honestly, if you don't understand, you have to ask questions. Don't assume you understand, because that could be very cultural also, depending on the society or the culture you come from. So ask questions. This is very critical. Don't assume you know how to do things. You may know how to do the task in your country based on your culture and so forth, but it could be vastly different. You're hired, yes, for a certain skill set, but I think you should still be asking questions to ensure you're doing it correctly. Because in some workplace, you may have a mentor, or you may, have somebody helping you out within the first month or so, or you could be job shadowing, but don't take it for granted that you know everything, and don't assume. Ask.
Ask and listen.
Yes.
So these are some of the important things one must keep in mind. Look, Katerina, if I come to you now, and because you mentioned how when you did the initial survey with a lot of managers and organizations, interpersonal skills was one of the much needed aspect in the people who would be joining the organization. But again, one must be good at listening and observing, and maybe they are trying to understand the culture a lot. But how to overcome that hesitancy? What if I say something incorrect? What if my diction isn't right? What if I don't pronounce it correctly? Katerina, if you can unmute.
I'm sorry. That is what we really practice in courses like the ones that constitute the Workplace Communication in Canada program, the occupation specific language training that Naya was attending, and all the other programs that are offered by universities and colleges and agencies serving newcomers and immigrants. In this sense, I also wanted to mention a study that I think we should highlight, aside from the skills that Gloria and I already mentioned. The University of Toronto did a study with newcomers and was really looking into what are the factors, what does really determinant, what are the determinants that really affect if someone, a newcomer, will succeed, and of course in a reasonable amount of time find their place, settle, and find a job that they enjoy and that matches their skills and previous knowledge and experience. And the first, and far from all the other factors that contributed to the immigrant success, was attitude. And it comes back to what we just talked before, to have that positive attitude. It's not just, we were born that way. We learn to be that way. And by getting that self-confidence, by knowing that, oh, I know more, I know how to deal with a difficult client, student, patient. We have a course that is specifically targeting client-centered communication. Well, in Macedonia, if you're an administrative, if you're a teacher, if you're a doctor, you're the expert, and the client, the patient, the student has to have, respect. And it's the other way around here. You're serving your student, your patient, you're serving them, you're here for them, not the other way around. And knowing all of that, becoming familiar with all of that, becoming familiar, how do you deal with a difficult team member? And Camelia will probably remember that we even, not now with the pandemic, unfortunately, but previously in our course that is focused on teamwork communication, we invite actors to the class, and the actor knows exactly how to really represent a very, very difficult, tough team member to work with. And then our students get so upset. They just don't know how to deal with this, in that situation. And then, of course, all of that is well explained and practiced. And by becoming familiar, people become, as I mentioned, self-confident, very important thing. And then more, open, they open up, they become more outgoing, they're not shy anymore, and they adopt that positive attitude, and they believe in themselves. And at graduation ceremonies like the one behind me, we invite our students to do impromptu speeches, and a lot of those refer to a situation like this. When I was interviewed for this position and they asked me an XY question, the voice of my instructor, Marcus or Dennis Grant or Melanie came to mind, and she told us that to that question, that this is how I should behave, or this is how I should respond. So that gives you that, the knowledge and the confidence that you know how to deal with different situations, even conflicts. In my culture, you try to avoid conflict. But here you don't avoid it, you try to find a resolution. So those are very, very different ways, and you have to become aware, knowledgeable. Of course, there's a lot on YouTube, there's a lot on TED Talk, there's a lot of books like the ones Gloria writes, but practicing it. We work in diverse teams. We serve diverse student body and patients. So we have to know how to deal with those situations in a multicultural, in a diverse team setting, and of course, clientele.
I'm glad you mentioned this word conflict, because in workspace, having to deal with situations is a scenario people face every day, right? When it comes to communications and language skills, it's not only for client presentations or colleague camaraderie, but it's also to resolve conflicts. And I'm sure all of this is taken care of when someone undergoes a certain kind of training with you. But since you also mentioned pandemic, I'm going to bring that topic here. And here, once again, I would like to remind all of our viewers, you can always ask your questions by dropping in the questions in the Q&A section. And coming back to pandemic, the world has gone to virtual business operations. In any ordinary day, we would have been sitting together face to face having this conversation. But here we are, connected to each other through this webinar. And as grateful as we are for all of these technologies to have been present in our lives, that certainly must have presented certain challenges. People were still getting accustomed to the new culture or to new workplace, then having to move everything virtually. So if you can touch upon some of the challenges that newcomers must be facing these days because of the virtual business operations, and the tips you would want to give. If I can start with you, Gloria.
Thank you. Yes, especially newcomers, they have a lot to face right now because especially if they have kids are at home, they have to look after their kids, they have to do work. I don't think if you have kids, you will have a quiet background. There will always be some sort of background noise, especially with kids, if they are not in school, especially now they have to be at home. So a few basics for online attendance as such, or online participation, is to make sure that you have the app to download, whether it's Zoom or whatever app you're using. Set it up before, check out everything before the training starts or the meeting starts. Just be prepared as you would if it was a face-to-face meeting. If you are in a meeting and you have to give a presentation, don't at the time of the Zoom meeting, for example, looking at your desk for that paper or, oh, where did I put this? Just be prepared. Just be as professional as when you are, or as if you were doing it in person. I've been on many Zoom meetings or Zoom calls where maybe a child comes in to interrupt the mom or dad, and that's okay. That is part of the new normal now, because nobody has the space to keep the kids one place with a nanny or someone else to look after them. The parents have to be doing all of that. So the participant must be prepared, must have at least everything almost ready. The attendees, the other attendees also have to be accepting of that, because like I said, that's a new norm. So don't judge people because their child comes in or because there's some noise in the background. This is the new norm. So we have to be adjustable and we have to be adaptive to accommodate all of these scenarios and people with families. And I have created a list of online tips for online participation, which I will send to you and you can forward it.
Well, definitely, it'll be most beneficial for all of our audience and viewers who have joined us. And we would like to update you here that the list that has been prepared by Gloria Pierre, we will be sharing with you in our post-webinar communication. And Katerina, if you would like to add to that.
Last year, we were about to start the Workplace Communication in Canada program. It was scheduled to be the 21st of March. And then things changed overnight. And Camelia remembers there was a lot of, not just panic, but we didn't even believe that the communication courses with newcomers can be done successfully without having that in-class, in-person, get into groups, go and present in front of the class. And we thought, oh my God, all of our students will just drop the program. They will, they will disappear because it will be so difficult now to virtualize everything. And on top of having to understand the desire to work, the desire to learn, the platform that we're using for the online portion of the courses. Now they had to learn a new tool, a new platform, Zoom, or what we are going to do. So all of that only a year ago, seemed so frightening. When we did our graduation ceremony for the class of 20 that Camelia is a part of, people were telling us, oh, even if we go back to normal, just keep that virtual online blended format because it was working so great and we really enjoyed it. So we are, as creatures, we're very adaptable. And there's always a way. When there's a will, there's a way. And I think that now for the second time in a row, we are offering the program in the same format, virtual and online. And it's doable. It's totally doable. We miss the social component. We miss getting into the classroom and greeting each other and ending each course with taking photos and a potluck or whatever they wish to do. But it's not in our control. It's out of our control. It's just here, and we have to make it work. And even recruiting, as we know, and letting people know, doing so many virtual information sessions all over the city. Luckily, we have so many agencies that are serving newcomers that are our partners. So we did a lot of information sessions, virtual sessions for their clients. And again, we were successful in getting 100 students on full bursaries so that they didn't have to pay the tuition fees at all. The government luckily is sponsoring them. And it's not as difficult as it may seem to someone at the very beginning. How will it work? Will it be how effective will it be? Will I really have a chance to network with people? And luckily the answers to all these questions are yes, yes, and yes.
Yes, and a very positive. Yeah. Here, I would take another question from our audience member, and this is from Godwin. He asks, to what extent is cultural context affecting behavioral interviewing methods for newcomers in the Canadian workplace? Further, he asks, to what extent are newcomers affected by speech, basic emphasis patterns, and annotations? Gloria, would you like to take this first?
Can you read the first part of the question again for me?
Sure. So the person asks, to what extent is cultural context affecting behavioral interviewing methods for newcomers in the Canadian workspace?
I don't do a lot of interviewing training, but what I can say, maybe Katerina would be able to give a more full answer. But what I would say, again, it comes back to the basic communication skills of listening and knowing that words have different meanings. Words have different meanings to different cultures, different generations, different industries, and so forth. So that's something that interviewers have to understand. And the other thing is, don't let culture propel you to jumping in and answering questions before you understand it or before you heard it, or don't let it stop you from answering the questions. Speak up, be heard, because you are there to get a job, to look for a job, and you have to show some sort of initiative. So if you are passive or if you are from a culture that does not permit you to share what you think, express yourself, then that's a big cultural barrier that people have to overcome at the very beginning. Concerning the actual interviews and questions, I think maybe Katerina will be able to answer that better than I would.
Right, Katerina, and I'm very mindful of time here. If you can answer this one briefly.
Is it possible that we ask Godwin to answer his own question?
I would have. We are a little short on time here, but I can definitely try. We can try, but meanwhile, while we are waiting for him, how about I take the final tips from all of you, because there is so much that I have heard today and learned from all of you. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess if I connect the dots to what each one of you said, to where all of you are right now and how you are encouraging others, a lot has to do with the thoughts. What you say starts with the thought process, right? Because you kept on focusing on the point of being confident, being clear. Now, the clarity of words will come with clarity of mind. So correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, and there we have Godwin. Hi, Godwin. It's good to have you.
Hi. Thank you very much, Shaylee. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Katerina. I have been listening carefully to this conversation from when it started, and it is my real privilege to share a moment of my success with Ryerson University. I was enrolled at the Chang Raymond Continuing Education Program by March 20th, 2021. Unknown to me, I was going to have a shift, and I call it a shift of a lifetime. I concentrated in the modules of the training program for the workplace communication in Canada, and I was able to learn the speaking and listening strategies from Melanie Lee, the facilitator. I was able to pick up the client-centered communication, the teamwork communication, and the presentation skills. And I had to go through 4 levels of interview. And of course, I had to go back to my assignments and my quizzes to study my behavioral interviewing methods, which of course had to do with the STAR techniques of answering behavioral method, interviewing questions. And thank goodness for the rare facilitators and instructors at the Chang School of continuing education in Ryerson. They did a very wonderful work. And over a course of the last 1 month, I became successful in a rigorous interview of a digital account strategist with Teleperformance. And I was given an offer letter last week, which I have accepted. And I know that most of us international trained professionals have a problem with respect to speech, to intonation, vocabulary, content word, and even focus words. And these were things I was opportune to learn in a period of 2 weeks and applied it to a behavioral interview techniques and became successful. And you can imagine what the program has done to me.
We would like to congratulate you, Godwin.
So
Thank you so much for sharing your experience.
I believe that such things should be recommended for professionals in Canada, for professional immigrants in Canada, where most of us are coming with strong accent and diction. And here we have to learn how to blend and cope with the cultural differences, the workplace attitude and culture in Canada, which is unparalleled in any part of the world. So I want to extend my deep appreciation and gratitude to the organizers at the Ryerson University, and of course for giving me the privilege to be in this program. It's been a wonderful time listening to all the panelists, Camelia, Naya, Gloria, and yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Godwin, for sharing your experience, and congratulations once again. And like I said, I'm very mindful of time here because I would like our audience to have final tips from each one of you. So if I can begin with you, Katerina, what are going to be your concluding words or the final tip in 30 seconds if you can give us?
It's a lifelong learning. As someone in education who loves studying and teaching, and I would say just don't stop learning. And there's so many opportunities. Go shop around, make an informed decision. Time is money. You cannot take every course everywhere. So do ask for advice. There's a lot of advice. There are a lot of career and academic advisors that people can go to. So do that and continue learning.
Thank you. Gloria, what do you have to say? Your final tip.
Okay, my final tip is when you are in the workplace or even in social situations, speak. Don't stay quiet. Speak. It doesn't matter about your accent. We will understand. No accent is so bad that, or no speech or pronunciation is so bad that we can't understand it. You have to get over that hurdle first. Because if you don't speak up, you are blending in the background or you are invisible. And if that's the case, you will always stay in the background. You will not be stepping out of your comfort zone, out of the shadows and achieving what it is you want to achieve or realizing your potential. So just open them out, let the words come out and have fun with it.
Have fun with it, definitely. Naya, what is going to be your advice to any newcomer who's listening to us right now?
The same as I said, like keep working on your language and on your skills. Even the soft skills in Canada, when you came, you need to improve those skills. And there is a lot of workshop and courses in Canada, as the one that I attended, like occupation language training to access the job market. They are really excellent course. They make you feel more confident. They make you to practice the interview and to record and listen for the tips from the instructor. They are like so helpful, this kind of workshop or courses.
Camelia, your tip, your final advice?
My final advice was foreshadowed by Katerina. Never stop learning. Identify your upgrading needs the moment you decide to go look for a job. And also try to identify any financing resources because there are plenty. Ontario is a very generous government. So please do that. I was amazed and lucky to find such means which permitted me to take part in this program at Ryerson, which prepared me fully for all the challenges that I thought I would meet on my way to employment. So I felt prepared. I am prepared. So to answer a question that one of our viewers asked, there are no conflicts in the workplace because I am ready. I was ready due to our encounters.
Well, thank you so much. On that note, I would like to thank each one of you for taking the time and sharing your knowledge and those valuable tips with all of us. This was one learning process for all of us. And I'm sure all of you all who joined us, whether through YouTube or through Zoom, have thoroughly enjoyed the session and learned a lot in the process. I'm sure you now know the do's and don'ts you can do to increase your employability with advanced language skills. This was our discussion for tonight. And every week through Café New Canadians, we bring to you the topics that matter the most to newcomers, to immigrants, and you name it, we discuss the topic, whether it's education, whether it's employment, or providing you with the best sources and resources. If you want to keep in touch with us, that's very simple. You subscribe to our newsletter and we'll keep you posted with the latest. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also you can press the bell icon so you know every time there is a new update or a new notification, you will be notified of that. And like I said, every week we bring to you topics that matter to you the most, the newcomers. So you can also give us your suggestions. Also, if you've joined us through Zoom, you will soon be getting a survey. We would like you to take that survey and let us know how you felt. And once again, thank you for joining us. We will soon be sharing a post-webinar communication with all of you. Thank you. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.